Tim O'Brien, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Boy, this is terrific. It's great to see this nice turnout for this event. Greg asked that I come here and talk about the subject of media, and I told him I'm always pleased to come and talk to my compatriots in the Libertarian movement, and I'm delighted to be here. But I pointed out to him that my background really is in paid media. I've been in the advertising business my whole life, and I started working on political campaigns professionally actually in 1988, 20 years ago, which is kind of a scary thought. So for 20 years now, I've been consulting professionally on political campaigns, and in fact, it's gotten now to the point where I don't hardly even do any more consumer retail advertising. Politics is a growth industry, in this country. Somebody's always running for something. And in fact, I've already been retained to do a campaign. A trustee in Redford Township is running for supervisor against the incumbent, and I tend to specialize in challenging the incumbents, as you might guess. But I told Greg that really my background is primarily in paid media. There are two forms of media that you need to be concerned about if you're running for public office: paid media and what's called earned media. As I say, I came into this with my background in paid media. About, actually I started in broadcast doing radio and television, but I quickly became more familiar with doing print advertising and doing direct mail advertising. And Andy, by the way, did a terrific job in telling you some of the ins and outs of that. And I will reiterate one of his points, which we got from our friend Barbara, which is don't irk the clerk. It's a very important person to you if you're going to run for office. But the thing is paid media, generally speaking, obviously is something that requires a substantial budget. And for instance, the campaign that I've been retained to do in Redford, the lady who's a trustee there estimated, they always guess high, but it's probably reasonably accurate, that she's anticipating spending $100,000 to get elected a township supervisor in Redford. I don't think she's going to spend that much, but she will certainly spend probably about 3/4 of that amount of money. And I'm guessing that there's probably very few folks in this room, even though you're running for partisan office this year, that are going to raise and spend that kind of money. And the difficulty when you're running for partisan office is that, now Redford Township, since it is a township, happens to be partisan, but most local races in Michigan, unless it's a township, the offices are nonpartisan, as Andy pointed out in running for city council or mayor. The advantage of those is that they're smaller districts, and consequently the cost of running a paid ad campaign is substantially lower, because you don't have to deal with as many, you don't have to reach as many people. In a local race, as Andy's talking about, the single most hands down, everything else pales in comparison, form of advertising is direct mail. If you can't do direct mail, you might as well, save your time and energy. You're not going to win. I mean, you can go out and, if you want to go out and promote the cause, that's fine. But, if you have any hope of winning elective office in a local race in a small district, you absolutely must raise at least enough money to do direct mail, which will end up being divided into two separate batches, and this is why you need the clerk. The people who vote absentee, which Andy also mentioned, absolutely critical. Approximately 25, anywhere from 25 to 33% of the people who will vote in a local race are going to vote by absentee. If you cannot reach the absentee voters, and you need to reach them by direct mail, because that's how they're voting by direct mail, you need to reach them by direct mail, you absolutely need to raise enough money to mail to the absentee voters. And then the other portion of the list, you get the people who voted in the previous election that are registered to vote, that vote in the local elections, which, as Andy also pointed out, is distinguishable from people who vote for a governor and president. It's a much more devoted, intense list. You take that list and you divide it into two parts. You mail to the absentees when the absentee ballots are going in the mail, and then subtracting that out, you mail to the rest, because you know those are people who walk in and vote on election day. And you need to do that. That is basic in terms of paid media. Once you've got that covered, you can do some other things. You know, you want to get lawn signs, that kind of thing. There are other things to do. But if you can just raise the money to do the direct mail and then also spend the time to go out and doorbell the district, you have a very good chance of winning, a very good chance of winning. This is an achievable goal. But, as I say, this is an even year. This is a partisan year. And unless you live in a township and you're going to run for a township office, you are going to be running for an office in which the district is significantly larger than a city like Hazel Park or Allen Park, where I live. Allen Park, that I'm familiar with, there's 12,000 households in Allen Park. There's about 29,000 population. There's about 6,000 of those households, actually probably fewer than that, vote in local offices. So now you've got an idea of how many houses you need to get to and how much that's going to cost. You can probably do a rule of thumb of like somewhere between 30 and 50 cents per hushold. And obviously you're looking at mailing to households. You don't need to mail to everybody. You know, a lot of the households have two voters. You know, it's both husband and wife, maybe kids. So you narrow it down to unique addresses. Okay, and now you're down to a manageable number. You know, if there's the last race I did in Allen Park, I just actually helped a challenger unseat our incumbent mayor. He's not a libertarian, hardcore libertarian, but he was better than the guy that was there. And now that I helped him get elected, and by the way, we won every precinct. That's how we, broomed the incumbent. And usually they give you fodder. You know, they'll give you a lot of ammunition to attack them with. And now, I call the mayor's office and I get right through, or the city manager. So it gives you a little bit of influence in what goes on. Okay, but as I was starting to say, and I don't have a lot of time here, unless you're in a township, this being a partisan year, you're going to be running in a district that's larger than that. Okay, and so what I was talking about was a budget. I think in the campaign I just did in Allen Park, on the paid media we spent maybe in the neighborhood of $20,000 or $25,000, which again I'm guessing is probably more than most of you are going to raise. And as I say, I'm talking about a district that's smaller than the district you're likely to run in. There's only 12,000 households altogether in Allen Park. Only half of those have voters that vote in local elections, and we spent 20 grand. You're probably going to be running for state rep or something larger than that. So the point of all of that, and why I told Greg I wasn't sure exactly how much I could contribute to this particular forum, is that it's not paid media that you're likely to be relying upon in any race you're probably going to run in for this election coming up this fall. And that brings us to the other aspect of media, which actually probably Erin and Andy and those who dealt with it know more about than I do, because I'm in the paid media business. But that's what you call earned media. All right, now earned media. Notice the word earned. Okay, we're all big believers in capitalism in this room, so let me appeal to your capitalist spirit for a moment. And put yourself in the place of a newspaper publisher, all right? You are putting out a newspaper. You have only limited space in that newspaper, and you're going to cover certain things. Local politics is one of the things that you're going to cover. So what you're going to try and do with the earned media is get your name, your story, your information into their newspaper. You don't have to pay for it. You earn it, but you earn it in another way. And how is it that you earn it? You earn it by doing something newsworthy, okay? Sending out a press release saying, Leonard Schwartz is planning a fundraiser at the Best Western Hotel on, this and this date, and expecting them to print that in their newspaper is dreaming. They don't care about that. Why do they think their newspaper, or their readers are going to care about that? They're not going to put that in their paper, okay? What you're trying to do there is you're trying to get around doing paid media. That's something that you would do in paid media, put out an announcement like that, by getting them to run it for free. Well, guess what? They're not stupid. They're not going to do that, all right? You need to, if you're going to get earned media, you need to do something newsworthy. And let me give you an example. This election that's just coming up that I'm going to be doing here in Redford Township is a lady by the name of Tracy Schultz-Kobelars, who is running against the incumbent mayor, well, not township supervisor, the equivalent of the mayor, a guy by the name of Miles Handy. And Miles Handy has apparently been quite a high-handed mayor. He goes and does whatever he wants. He settles lawsuits without even consulting the Board of Trustees. Apparently he plays everything very close to the vest. And so I suggested to Tracy, and we're about to do this. It hasn't even happened yet, so I guess we'll see how well it works. I suggested to Tracy that what we ought to do is have her go into court and file a Freedom of Information Act complaint against the township supervisor. All right? So now you've got someone who's a trustee on the Board of Trustees having to file a FOIA request against the mayor to get information. Now the newspapers are going to go, this is interesting. You know, I mean, why does a trustee have to file a FOIA request to find out what's going on in the departments? Now, this happens to be extremely timely. It's fortuitous because we've got this huge scandal going on in Detroit right now about how the mayor of Detroit went and, you know, did stuff behind the city council's back, got them to sign off on a $9 million lawsuit settlement. We got a parallel thing going here. Sign off on a $9 million settlement without telling them what was going on. So now we've got a hook, all right, and a reason why I think the Redford Observer and some of these other newspapers, Dearborn Press and Guide, maybe even the West Zone of the News and Free Press, now we're giving them a story. Okay, that's earning the media, at least theoretically. Like I said, we're going to see what happens when we try it. So I would just suggest to you, since you don't have a lot of money in this campaign, you're going to have to rely to a great deal, to a large extent, on earned media. That just make sure that you actually earn it. You know, that you do something that will be newsworthy. Erin, did you want to come up here and?
I just wanted to make a few more points.
Okay, yeah. As I say, you probably know more about this than I do. So.
Yeah, so stay
okay,
up here.
I will.
But yeah, definitely. When I was on city council, actually my campaign managers, they had suggested that when you're in front of a news reporter, that if you're not quite sure about the answer, and if you have the opportunity to ask them if you can email them later or call them later after you had a few minutes to think about it. But if you don't have that opportunity to email them later, they want an answer right on the spot, Mary Comfort, she's going to be speaking later during the public speaking tips from Toastmasters. And she's going to be speaking about that particular issue of how to get your answers concise and some tips about that. But by all means, ask them if you can email them later. Because I had a lot of quotes in St. Clair Shores City Council. I was the only one of 7 on City Council that voted against the police and fire millage. As a politician, that's a scary thing to do. Yeah, and not a very popular thing. But with my master's in finance and my financial background, my conscience, I could not vote for that thing. I knew it was an accounting trick with the money. Another thing is when you're speaking with the reporters or at a city council meeting or anything that might be televised, I mean, you might get really passionate about an issue, and so much so that you might go for that personal attack. I would recommend leave the personal attack out of it and keep your passion on the issue. Because it might feel really good and you might get applause from the audience in that moment, but it'll bite you in the end and you'll lose your credibility.
Can I jump in with one thing there? Absolutely, because you're reminding me of things too that I also, and this is a good one.
We're a good team.
This is a good, that's right. This is a good one. whenever you're talking to the media, whenever, in fact, you know, as Andy said, you go to your city council meetings, get up and talk. I used to do that a lot. And, you know, and actually I think I made some differences in Allen Park just by going there and raising issues, one of which was to get rid of the old VA hospital and, you know.
With motor company not taxes in.
Yeah, that's right. A key thing, though, which Erin just reminded me of, when you're talking to reporters, you're talking to anybody, your local officials or anything, always stick to the issue, as Erin just said, and avoid, like the plague, speculating about motives, because that will be deadly. You start getting into, well, yeah, they're doing that because, and you start getting into what is motivating. Forget what's motivating these people. You're just going to open yourself up to a counterattack. They're going to go, well, no, you're wrong. That's not why we're doing it. Forget that. Stick exactly to the point. The point is there's 38 acres of property that's still got an abandoned hospital on it. Let's get rid of it and put it back on the tax rolls. Forget getting into, you know, why it is that they're not doing this, okay? I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Do not get into motives. You don't care what their motives are.
And just and adding to that, just assume that a reporter's going to be there, and be prepared with an answer, short as possible, concise, like to the point. Because when you give a long sentence or a long spiel about an issue, probably the quote that you want won't be in the newspaper.
In fact, here's another very important point. Tag. Okay, tag. You could engrave this on a plaque and put it up in your office and stare at it every day, okay? Because this is an absolute truism. You will be misquoted. You will be, okay? Get over it. Don't go thinking that it's a conspiracy, that the reporter's out to get you on AHA. Most of the time, 98% of the time, it's attributable to carelessness or incompetence. Don't call the reporter and read them the riot act. You go back to the meeting, you ask for a correction, and if you're nice about it, they'll go, gee, I'm sorry, and they'll run the correction, okay? But accept the fact that I guarantee it, you are going to be misquoted in the papers, in the print media. That's the beauty of broadcast. They can't do that to you, but in the print media, you will be misquoted, so just accept that going in, and don't get all bent out of shape when it happens.
Yeah. Tag. One last thing. Jim had mentioned about being newsworthy. And one of the things that happened for me was I'm involved with the Waterfront Advisory Committee, and that was very newsworthy, and it actually got on the front page of our local paper. What it is that we go to the freeway entrances and all of the trash that gets thrown out of the cars, we pick it up before it goes into the drains, which drain directly to the lake. And we were able to clean up 108 bags of trash before it went to the lake. But so that was very newsworthy. Because a lot of the reporters, especially the local reporters, they like that human interest story. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on that particular issue, but it could be something that you're involved with, not involved with politics, that could get your name out there and be really newsworthy. And definitely the last thing, just get to know your local reporter, because you will, if you have these friendly stories or just have a rapport with them, knowing their family or whatever, something about them, you'll get more quotes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
I guess question time?
Question time.
You commented about press releases a little bit, and I am of the opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a good press release will almost always have a photograph with it.
Available. I usually put photo available on request at the bottom, and nowadays it's digital, so, it's easy. Yeah. And do make sure you have a good campaign photo, a yearbook style photo, headshot. Go to a professional. It only costs $100. They'll give you like 3 poses. Have a good campaign photo.
May I give one example of earned media?
Sure.
In a Martin Howard race for the city council, he was in a televised debate it was on local cable, and one of the other opponents used this scenario that Martin Howard, her school and said it's okay to do drugs because Mark Howard Act's a libertarian.
I remember.
This whole confused it turned all the way around. So Libertarian Party of Oakland County took offense to the fact that we promote drug use on children, so we sued her. And what did it cost us to file, Leonard? $50 or something?
I think it was $100 or something, I forget.
Filing fee.
We went to
Yeah.
court and sued her for defamation of our political party. We lost, because you can't name a political party, it's not an entity. But regardless, it got in the paper.
Right.
The Oakland County chair got top billing in the op-ed letter there. She got the worst press in the world out of it. Martin Howard, on the other hand, is like he is an Eagle Scout. The guy has never smoked a cigarette, never tasted alcohol. So we had her wrapped right up. Earned media, it got in the Troy Somerset Gazette. Oakland Press picked it up. Into the story is Martin Howard Act was, I believe, a top vote, and she was the bottom. So that's another way that, we got earned media by creating a lawsuit. Quite frankly, it wasn't really superfluous. We had a point to make.
That's right. And you earned it. See, that's the thing. You gave them a story.
$100, but
Yeah, Dan.
As long as is the term, as long as they spell your name right, still pretty current? I mean,
Yeah.
Depends on what comes after your name.
For the most part, yeah, you want to get your name out, because especially in local races, name ID is critical. Is a master, yeah. You want to see somebody who is an absolute master at keeping his name in the media? Leon Drollet. He's incredible at it. Yeah, Len.
one other point is, when you're talking to the news media or at a candidate forum or really any sort of presentation, never use hyperbole, never use sarcasm. Because even if they quote you accurately,
It doesn't come across,
Yeah,
right?
look like a jerk.
Right? Yeah, sarcasm doesn't translate. Don't do it. Yeah, Bill?
One other comment, if I might, real quick, on what Erin pointed out, where she was against the millage for the firefighters and so forth. That's fine. If you look at it carefully, when somebody gives you an issue like that you know you're going to be against, or if somebody is interviewing you and they give you an issue that you haven't even thought of, there is usually a quick and easy answer. In the case of the firefighters, well, I'm in favor of good fire protection, and I am in favor of good police protection. We have to have that. My problem is how it's financed. I think the taxes are too high, etc. Nobody in the general public